You have come to the garden tomb today. It is divided into two. At one end is possibly the place where Jesus was crucified. At the other there is a tomb which you are going to go inside, and you will be impressed because it is possibly the tomb that Jesus was buried in and rose from. And I'm going to explain to you the way in which it is like the tomb of Jesus. If you are not impressed, you are not allowed to leave the garden. We have a form that you have to sign that says, I was impressed. So, what we do know is that close by the place where Jesus was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden there was a tomb. Now, this was a garden in the time of Jesus. It was a working garden, and they were growing grapes. This is a wine press. The wine press is just down over here on the other side of the low wall. They brought the grapes and they put them here, they trod on them, and they collected the grape juice down at the bottom. This was definitely a working garden. This wine press was rediscovered in the 1920s, and it is from the Roman era. So, we have a known site of execution, we have a known garden, and in the garden a tomb. Now, the tomb that you are going to see is like the tomb of Jesus in 7 different ways. This is a floor plan of the tomb. Firstly, it was closed using a rolling stone, the shape of a coin. Secondly, it was cut out of solid rock. Thirdly, it was the tomb of a rich man. Joseph from Arimathea was very rich. Whoever built this tomb had got a lot of money. Fourthly, Joseph of Arimathea was a Jew. He was a senior political leader in the Jewish nation. Any tomb that he built would be a Jewish tomb, and Jews would be buried in it according to Jewish custom. This is a Jewish tomb, and we know because it has got a window in it. And the window is there to let out the smell of a rotting body. The way that they were burying at that time was to lay the body wrapped in linen cloths on a ledge and leave it to decompose. 12 months later they came back and they collected the bones together. They put the bones into a bone box, and then they reused the grave bed. And that's the kind of tomb that we have here. It's a tomb with a window, and it did have ledges where the bodies were laid. Fifthly, on Easter morning, at least 5 women came together to the tomb. At least 5. Luke tells us there was Mary Magdalene, there was Mary the mother of Joseph, there was Salome, and the other women, and they went inside the tomb. Now you are going to be able to go inside this tomb, 6, 7, or 8 of you together at the same time, and stand up. There are 2 chambers. There's the weeping chamber, which is here, which is where the body was prepared for burial, and then there is the burial chamber here, which would take 3 bodies at any one time. Now, it must have been a tomb like this that Jesus was buried in. Not just a tomb that would take a body or 2, but a tomb that was big enough to go inside, because that's what Luke describes. Sixthly, one of those women, Mary Magdalene, went to find the men. She found Peter and John. They wanted to see for themselves, and so they came running to the tomb. Now, John is very interesting in the detail that he gives us. He says that he ran faster than Peter and got to the tomb first, but to start with, he didn't go inside. He said at the entrance to the tomb, he looked inside, and from the entrance, he could see the grave bed, he could see the grave clothes, he could see the napkin that had been over Jesus' face, folded up in a place by itself, but the body was gone, and he could see all of that from the entrance. Now, if you stand at the entrance of this tomb and you look inside, you look across the weeping chamber, you can't see that grave bed, nor that one, because they're out of your eye line. To see those, you've got to go inside. But from the entrance, you can look across the weeping chamber, and you see that grave bed exactly as John describes. Seventhly, if you go inside this tomb and you look for a dead body, you are not going to find one. Because Jesus has been raised.
Amen.
He is not in the tomb anymore.
Yes.
He lives.
Yes.
I was pulling the leg of those of you who've got Chinese background earlier on. I have been to see the body of Mao Zedong in Tiananmen Square. It has been embalmed. His black hair is there, his face, it's the same color as Donald Trump. It is nicely sunburned. His bones are there. Mao Zedong is dead. Still, Jesus lives.
Amen.
You come to an empty tomb. Do you know, the very interesting phrase that the Acts of the Apostles uses is this: God raised him from the dead. Now that's a really, really important statement. Over there we said that Jesus gave his life as a ransom. Now when ransoms are paid today, sometimes evil men do this. They say, we've had the money, but it's not enough. We want some more. When Jesus paid our ransom, did he pay it in part with us being left to pay something more?
No.
Or did he pay it in full? You know the right answer. But how do you know? How do you know that? Some people say, oh, well, at the cross, Jesus said it is finished. He did say that, but was he right? The resurrection is God's guarantee that the debt has been paid in full. It's like you go to a store and you buy something and you get the till receipt. And you carry what you've bought in one hand and the till receipt with the other, and you walk out of the store. And if anybody said to you, just a minute, you haven't paid for that, you would say, but I've got the receipt. If anybody says to you, you're not forgiven, you can say in reply to that, but I've got the receipt. And the receipt is the empty tomb. He has been raised. The ransom has been accepted. It has been paid in full. And more than that, on the bottom of the receipt, it says FOC. FOC? Free of charge. What did you pay? Nothing. Nothing. There was nothing that you gave. The ransom was paid by Jesus. This is the thrilling thing of the resurrection. But there's something more here. We said over there that Jesus was crucified as a blasphemer. We said that they said about him, when he opens the Bible, he doesn't understand it, and when he preaches it, he gets it wrong. That is what they said. They said he's a blasphemer. You can't trust him. Don't believe anything that he says. But over here, the tomb is empty, and it is God's mark of authenticity that everything that Jesus said and taught and preached and did is absolutely cast iron, guaranteed true. God raised him from the dead to authenticate everything that he said. One last thing. Because Jesus lives, he's available to us today.
Amen.
Yeah. And that's our experience, isn't it? You ask me how I know he lives? He lives within my heart. That was my experience from the age of 17 until now.